So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of start.
Yep.
Just make sure you look pretty rosy, your cheeks or whatever you need to do. There you go. You look better. Hello and welcome to the U of Q Frostbike Business Summit Meet the Speaker Series episode number 5. I'm your host, Greg Patterson, and today I am delighted to introduce Mr. Rich Tower, president of QBP. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Greg. How have you been doing?
I'm doing really well, as a matter of fact. It's been a lot of fun making these videos. I've got to talk to several really cool people. My bike shops are all busy and kind of nervous and excited for spring. Maybe they're a little worn out, but yeah, I'm having fun, man. Doing good.
I saw that you were out doing some baking of pizza out in the trails place. Tell me about that.
Yes, that's funny you ask. So I didn't have an oven because I was renting where my oven is, which is like an Airbnb. So I've been cooking on a Coleman stove and using cast iron. And my wife Jamie and I really wanted to make a frozen pizza. So we got out the cast iron and some charcoal and, made our own little oven thing. This is not about me, Rich.
I just thought it was interesting. I hadn't talked to you since I saw that, and I was like, "Oh, that was a fun thing." I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, thanks. It was the best frozen pizza I'd ever eaten. So catch that on Life with Greg and Jamie YouTube channel. Shameless plug. So Rich, as we talked about what we wanted to cover in this particular episode, I think we both walked away from that discussion with a real sense of let's address some of the biggest, scariest, or most confusing issues that our retailers are facing today. And I've kind of come up with 2 of those questions that I think you're going to be able to add some context for shops and probably for myself too. But just things that are really important that we haven't heard much about, and I think you have some detail. And before I do, I've already taken off my QBP name tag, and I'm putting on my official bike retailer baseball cap here to ask these. Are you ready, Mr. Tower?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
Awesome. I'll be blunt. Rich, where are my bicycles and when are they coming?
Oh gosh, that is a great question. I wish I had some great answer for you. I'm sure everybody obviously is aware of all the global issues around bikes and the fact that COVID has just had this huge spike. I mean, that's not news. Most recently, the biggest issues actually revolve around a couple of areas, specifically containers. The container shortage, which actually started a year ago when COVID actually hit and Asia was starting to shut down. That was kind of the beginning of the container shortage, but it has really become a gigantic issue. We have a number of our suppliers that have product waiting to be picked up in Asia, whether it's bikes or parts and accessories. And the problem is you can't get a container for it. Yeah. The issue of bikes is, for us, I just had a meeting earlier this morning, and we have containers of product that is waiting to go, but no container to fit it into. So, and now we just hit Chinese New Year. And Chinese New Year is notorious. Asia shuts down basically for Chinese New Year. And so there's always this mad push to get as much product out as possible prior to Chinese New Year. And with the container shortage, there was a lot less product that was able to be shipped just because there aren't containers. They're all physically here in the United States, actually. So the issue is that we're importing, but we haven't been exporting.
The containers are here empty and need to go there to be filled with, okay.
Right. So now the issue is, how do we get them there? So they're going to be taking and loading container ships with empty containers to take them back over to Asia. And so we have literally thousands of bikes that are sitting in factories that are done in boxes, ready to go, and we just can't get a container for them. And then the other big issue that really has driven a lot of change, particularly on bikes, it's not about us getting them. It is exchange rate. Exchange rate has really become an issue, and we certainly are starting to see and experience price increases as a result of both that container shortage as well as the exchange rates. And those 2 things really have become large issues for us and, of course, for retailers as well.
So, Rich, what I'm hearing from you is that, I mean, pricing is going to be crazy. Inventory ETAs are going to be all over the board. I mean, these are things that I think we've all been experiencing. Interesting to hear about the container shortage and the problems of contain. And I'm sure there are several other like nuanced reasons why like this is a problem. Can you just expand a little bit on like what maybe retailers should expect from QBP around specifically our bicycles over the next 12, 24 months?
Sure. Actually, I think that we're going to see, I really do believe that we're going to see things start to lighten up a little bit and start to uh, become less volatile by the time we hit the end of summer.
Okay.
I think that between now and then, that while I wish we could actually provide a date that you could hang your hat on, I don't think that we can. I don't believe that that we're going to have information that is nearly as we're not going to have information that is nearly as solid as we've had in the past. Again, I go back to that container shortage. We get told that this stuff is ready, and in normal times it would be picked up within 2 business days. Today it may take 2 weeks, and then we hit Chinese New Year's, and all of a sudden now we're off by a month. So it's just there's this volatility out there that we're going to unfortunately we're going to be experiencing. So I'm going to say be a little careful about making promises about when product is going to be in and be delivered, just because we can't guarantee it at this point.
The interesting thing is the best planning you can do now is to plan for uncertainty. So whatever that means for your business as a retailer, I think we're all hedging our bets as best we can. But take this information that you're getting and take a good hard look at your business, your inventory position, your cash position, and make some clear choices, some intentional choices about how you proceed, knowing what we know now. So thanks for adding that little bit of context, Rich. I think that's really meaningful for a lot of our viewers, and I think it's good information to be armed with in these uncertain times.
Absolutely.
So, Rich, my second question is a question that I get asked by every dealer several times, or like any dealer that I talk to several times a week. It keeps coming back up, and it's, hey, can I back order salsa, carbon, cowbell bar, and a 42 millimeter width? Or can I back order DT GR 1600 rear wheel because you have the front, but you don't have the rear? Or, hey, can I back order a GX 12 speed rear derailleur? Hey, Rich, can I back order?
Well, unfortunately, Greg, the short answer for that right now is no.
Yeah.
Before I go and talk a little bit about it, I do want to just make sure that people recognize that we absolutely positively have heard you. And I am sorry that we don't have a back order system. Certainly pre-COVID, it was something that was on a list that we've had for years, and we hadn't prioritized it. It has become the single biggest project that we are working in at our IT department. So it is our priority to get that built. Unfortunately, it's a big project. There's just a lot of moving pieces there, and it's not just as simply as saying how many people want this thing. It's how do we prioritize? Where do we track it? Are we shipping orders out automatically? That sort of thing. And it's going to take us some time. So we won't have anything until probably late May or early June.
Okay.
And it is something that we certainly recognize that it is an absolute necessity at this point. And if we could have it done earlier, we would. It's just not possible given the resources that we have. But effectively, we've got all of our development resources working on this one single thing at this point.
So what I'm hearing is back order system coming.
Back order
summer
system coming.
2021.
Yep.
And that we wish we'd have done it sooner, basically.
Well, the thing is that when from up until COVID, we worked hard at making sure we had inventory. Yeah. So our fill rate was 94% at any given time, and it's not that we didn't need to have some sort of a system, because I think everybody would agree that we probably did. It just became exacerbated and significantly with COVID. And so we went from having a 94, 95% fill rate at any given time to having a 50% fill rate.
Yeah.
And of course, the 50% that we had or have are typically products that are spare parts, or they're the stuff that you use to fix something as opposed to the main thing. And people need the main thing, and that's where the issue comes into play. So we do recognize that, we've always recognized that there's value to a back order system. It just had not risen up to the level of getting it built until we hit COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And now that it's here and persisting, it's obviously long overdue. And so that is the reason why we've moved it up to its top status and have as many people working on it as there are.
I think that is a perfect segue for, like, I'd like to know a little bit more about what is QBP doing to sort of resecure that supply chain, because we talked about this 94% fill rate. We really hung our hat on fill rate. I think this organization was built on having it for you when you needed it.
Yeah.
And now things have changed, and we've recognized needing things like back order. But I think the reason we recognized it is COVID, and COVID has created a level of complexity that we really haven't experienced in the industry in terms of actually sourcing product. So we talked a little bit about the bike side of things in terms of shortages and inventory flow. Can you riff a little bit on what we can expect to see from QBP in terms of P&A over the next 6-12 months?
Well, that's a good question, and so what I mentioned earlier, so we as an organization, we really did pride ourselves as having that inventory, that 94, 95% fill rate. And of course, today that fill rate is significantly lower. And what we've spent the past 6 months working on is making sure that we have a flow of inventory coming as the pandemic and COVID raged on. The lead times for products went out further and further and further,
like super far. Like how? Like we're talking many months, right?
It is. For bikes, it's over 2 years that we have orders in now for stuff that's going to come 2 years from now. So that's a pretty darn big crystal ball that we're looking in. Parts are not quite that long, but in some cases they're approaching 2 years. And if you go back to just the fact that there is this global shortage, it's just effectively what we're doing is saving our place in line for production.
Mm-hmm.
And for P&A, we have been working on, and we've spent the better part of 6 months making sure that we have larger orders being placed and pipelined out months and months and months in advance, way further in advance than we've ever done before. And so we spent about 6.5 months where our inventory kept on going down and down and down.
Mm-hmm.
And we bottomed out in that inventory in late November, early December. And slowly we've been starting to dig out from that and actually adding a little bit of inventory, adding a little bit of our fill rate. So it is improving. It just is going to take us a long time. It's going to take the industry a long time. I would expect that we will, because we have spring coming and we have a normal spring season that when the warm weather hits, we have a bike boom. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be bigger this year because you add COVID to that. But my expectation is that we have about another 6 months worth of this type of shortage, and then we will start slowly digging out, and we'll start slowly having inventory in larger volumes come into stock, and to be able to start fulfilling demand on demand, as opposed to having it being out of stock waiting for it to come in, having something trigger an item watch, and then the mad frenzy to get orders placed because the quickest one gets the product.
Is there, can you talk to me a little bit about the connection? I know we mentioned container shortages, and I'd have to assume they affect P&A in a similar way they affect bikes. Is there a reason why the time horizon for P&A to get better is much shorter than that of bikes in most cases?
Yeah, there is. I mean, bikes just have more moving pieces. There are plenty of stories of literally thousands and thousands of bikes sitting in warehouses over in Asia that are missing a single item. They're done. but they don't have a brake, or they don't have a saddle or a seat post or something like that. And you say, well, cripes, just pack it up and ship it. Well, no, you can't, because the system doesn't work that way. How do you price it differently? Is there something different that has to be done as it relates to all of the rules and regulations that go into shipping a bike? It's just not possible. So when it comes to parts and accessories, they're made typically by a single company. When it comes to a bike, it's a frame that's made by somebody. It's all the crankset and the derailleur and the seat post and the tires, all different companies trying to come together in a coordinated way. And so there's a big difference there. So when it comes to P&A, the lead times are typically shorter, and actually components have the longer lead times. And then when you get to accessories, typically have shorter lead times because they're not used on bikes. Bikes are, anything that gets used on a bike, whether it be a tire or a rim or the brakes, there's just a lot more bikes being ordered and trying to be produced than there are, the accessories that go along with them. So there's just a different lead time structure for that.
So take heart, bicycle retailers. Cross your fingers, but hopefully this summer and moving through, like the next season, we're going to have availability of the parts and accessories you need to repair the bikes that are coming in the doors that have been in the garage for the last 2 or 3 years, or to do custom builds. Things are going to get better in that regard. But at the same time, we need to definitely have our long-term thinking caps on when it comes to new bicycle inventory, because that's just a moving target and it's hard to put your finger on when things are actually going to happen.
It is. And actually, probably the biggest question that we wrestle with today is, so we have bikes ordered out 2+ years. We've got parts and accessories ordered out a year or even further than that. The question, though, is how long is this going to last, and how are we as an industry going to make sure that we have a soft landing on that inventory? So what are the cues that we need to be taking as an individual organization, or you as a retailer, to recognize that at some point the demand curve that we've been experiencing is going to start to actually slow down, and everybody is going to need to collectively back off on a little bit on the amount of inventory that they have coming in. Otherwise, we're going to have a glut, and we know what happens in gluts. I mean, all of a sudden prices get slashed because people are having to do, things that they don't want to do, but they feel like they need to do to be able to raise cash. And that is not healthy for anybody in the industry. So that idea of a soft landing that we need to collectively be planning for is just an important aspect of what we're talking about, because we collectively want to make sure that we remain healthy after the amazing sales that we've experienced in the last 10 months, because at some point it is going to slow down.
Bill Schumann kind of called this magical moment in cycling that we're having right now kind of a gift, and I think it is a gift, but I think it's really important for us and for retailers to really take a hard look and assess what's happening for themselves, and to take time to make a decision for how they want to proceed. And that's what I'm hearing, Rich, is that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's a good bit of speculation. We have reasonable information, but that information tends to change. But now is just a great opportunity, while things are good, to recognize this gift and decide where we're going to be moving forward, whether that's the partners that we choose to do business with, the way that we function in business ourselves, or any major changes we may need to make to our organization moving forward. Those are all things that right now we have the opportunity to decide where we'll be in the future, as opposed to the future just happening to us.
For sure. I think I agree with Bill. I think we were given a gift. I mean, if you're in the hospitality industry, you're certainly in a different place. We are in an industry that is a healthy outdoors, and we just benefited, and that is great. And the other gift that we've been given is that we have new customers.
Yeah.
A lot of new customers. I don't think anybody believes we're going to keep them all, but I think that they're going to be more likely to hop on a bike than they were pre-COVID
Right.
as we get done with this thing, whatever that looks like. But it also means that we really do have to recognize the fact that this is not going to continue on at the pace that we're experiencing today. It will not continue on like that for eternity. There is going to be a slowdown, and we all have to really, really be paying attention to make sure that we're actually seeing the signs.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for us, with orders placed out 2 years in advance, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
The dollar we're talking about, those commitments, because they become commitments. The manufacturers they don't say, oh yeah, you can go ahead and cancel that stuff.
Right.
They're telling us their cancellation is actually kind of a long ways in advance. So we have cancellation policies in some cases that are on bikes that are a year before they get produced.
Wow.
So again, that crystal ball becomes really, really important. And we really have to pay attention to what's happening and seeing the signs, because in the absence of that, we're all going to plow into just an enormous amount of inventory that's going to come in, and that is going to be really unhealthy for us.
I think that's really good context, Rich. I appreciate the candor in your response. That is something that I think we're lacking in the industry. I mean, I think this is a person who knows, because you've been in the industry for, what is this, your 32nd year at QBP?
32 years, just right now, actually, yes.
So this is not your first rodeo. You're coming into this eyes wide open with a purchasing background, a brand management background. I mean, you've touched every aspect of QBP. And I appreciate this holistic approach to talking to our retailers and trying to understand how we should proceed as a business. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing all of this information with our retailers. I think they're going to appreciate it, even if they don't necessarily love what they're hearing. I think hearing the truth is probably one of the more important things that we can all focus on now, because good information is better than no information.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I really do want to see I want to see us all succeed. I want retailers to succeed, because I know that our success is predicated on retailers being successful. And the thing is we've seen a version of this before, when we've had spikes in sales for things like mountain bikes, and then when things start to slow down, we have these gluts that come into play. We really, really want to make sure that we're paying really close attention to these things, because they do have the potential to be harmful. Wow. And we don't want to come out of something that is, this gift that we've talked about, and have it ultimately be a negative. We want it to be a net positive for everybody.
Soft landing. Well, Rich, thank you so much for answering these two really tough and complex questions. It takes guts to do that, so I applaud you, sir. Also, before we go, do you mind sharing with folks, if they want to reach out to you, the best way to get in touch?
Absolutely. Whether it's good or not, I don't know, but I am an email person. So my email address is rtauer@qbp.com. So it's rtauer@qbp.com. And I may not get back to you immediately. It may take me 24 hours or so, but I will absolutely positively respond.
Thank you, sir. And just as a reminder, if you're a QBP retailer, please register for the U of Q Frostbike Business Summit, February the 17th through the 19th at frostbike.vfairs.com. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.